Pimp. I'm an expert manipulator. Captivate the trick to data.
Okay, let's get into this. For this deep dive, we're tackling one of the most intense and frankly complex stacks of source material we've ever come across.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is.
Yeah.
The writer is known as Chase Ledet, and he communicates his worldview through this ferocious persona of mouthpiece.
And the sources themselves are they're a mix. On one hand, you have these raw, really aggressive YouTube monologues. It's like the unfiltered voice of the street. But then that's sitting right next to highly stylized, almost prophetic poetry and lyrics. I'm thinking of pieces like Gamble with Freedom.
So it's a huge challenge just to synthesize it all. The language is visceral, it's intense, and honestly, a lot of it is brutally shocking.
It is.
And that's really the mission we have for you today. We need to cut through that shock value, through the heavy vernacular, to decode the core philosophy. He just calls it the game.
And the central question is, how does Chase Ledet reconcile a life that seems dedicated to extreme systematic violence and hustling with these moments of profound, almost religious, social, and spiritual critique? It's a study in intense duality.
Absolutely. So to make sense of it, we've organized the sources into three main segments. First, we'll look at the fatalistic origin story, which is just rooted in trauma.
And then second, we'll get into the sophisticated, almost corporate philosophy of the hustle.
And finally, the violent operations themselves and how they contrast with this really defiant societal critique.
Right.
So let's jump right into part one. We could set the tone with Gamble with Freedom. I mean, this piece, it immediately just slams you with a feeling of preordained failure.
Oh, absolutely. The environment itself seems to dictate the outcome.
He says it right out. They were doomed from the start, a place where very few would thrive.
And that fatalism, it's immediately tied to this, environmental toxicity. The source paints a picture where the main influences are just destructive.
He mentions the atmosphere is saturated, influenced by cocaine and codeine by the leader.
Exactly. And the law of the land is immediate. It's unforgiving. It's built on, zero tolerance for disrespect.
The survival code is just.
Yeah.
It's brutal. He describes a world where you could get killed for stepping on a nigga's sneakers.
Think about that. A petty offense is interchangeable with a capital crime. There's no scale.
None at all. But I think the deeper tragedy, the one that really makes you pause, is the internal violence, the ultimate betrayal of trust.
Right. The betrayal within the community itself. He describes the act of putting a loved one in a hearse to get fly.
And then even worse, having to hold their mother at the funeral, rehearsing the lie.
That's not external oppression. That's self-cannibalization for profit. It's eating your own.
That detail, I think, is maybe the most brutal indictment of the whole system in all the sources. It shows the complete moral cost. And this level of violence, especially against supposed allies, it has to create an identity crisis, right?
It absolutely does. And the sources are very clear about this crisis. They frame it as a conflict between cultural input and institutional reality.
So what you hear versus what you're told.
Exactly. On one hand, young men are, and I'm quoting here, told what we were by rap songs through the speakers. That gives them an aspirational, albeit often criminal, template to follow.
And what's pushing against that narrative?
The institutional voice, the classroom. At the same time, they're told what we weren't in classrooms through the teachers.
So you got these two powerful forces just pulling them in opposite directions.
And it creates this profound cognitive dissonance. The culture says power and wealth are out there if you're aggressive, if you take it. But the classroom is basically trying to negate that entire identity.
So what's the result? Dangerous mimicry?
That's a good way to put it. Young men internalize this high-risk, high-reward model from these cultural figures who, according to Mouthpiece, never came off the bleachers. So they're just reciting lyrics that turn them into reapers. But the aspirational model itself is completely flawed.
And the sources don't really offer a structural alternative, do they?
No, because the driving force isn't justice or social reform. It's economic compensation. The source is shockingly direct about the motive here.
It strips away all the romanticism of the hustle.
Completely. It states clearly that the diamonds in the cars are entirely compensatory.
A way to mask a deeper flaw.
Exactly. The source notes, insecure financially, so the diamonds in the cars are to compensate. The flash is just a cover for systemic financial and emotional insecurity. It's a way to hide the scars from what make us great.
So this is the critical engine. Financial trauma is what drives the whole operational philosophy.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so if trauma is the fuel, what's the engine itself?
Mm.
That really takes us into the operational manual, the philosophy of the game. This dominates part 2 of the material. So what is his definition of this concept?
The game is, it's presented as a neutral, amoral, and incredibly efficient system for extraction.
Just a tool.
A tool. The YouTube monologue defines it as a tool, a shortcut line. It's designed to completely bypass the traditional, slow, legal ways of getting capital.
And that shortcut is defined by its brutality. I mean, Mouthpiece explicitly connects a successful game to hustle, robbery, murder, extortion.
But this is where we find the most genuinely stunning parallel in the sources.
Okay.
He refuses to treat street crime as some isolated pathology. He explicitly links the low-profile, high-risk street hustle directly to blue-chip finance.
This is that huge aha moment. We need to sit with this. He's not just complaining about the man. He's drawing a structural equivalence.
He is. He names them the giants of American capitalism: Washington, Hewlett-Packard, JP Morgan. He claims they all hustle prayer last name.
So the implication is that the methods, manipulation, exploitation, ruthless accumulation, they're identical.
Identical. The only difference between what his crew does and what JP Morgan does is the legality of the last name attached to that transaction.
The method is the same, just the legality and the scale are different. But the core objective, whether it's on Wall Street or the corner, is defined the same way.
Right. Royalty rights and accumulation.
And this structural equivalence, it leads to a philosophy of what? Just complete nihilistic control.
It has to. Mouthpiece operates from the premise that the system has already stolen everything: ownership of territory, assets, even identity.
So, since nothing belongs to you,
The only logical, aggressive action is to manipulate it to get what you need to get and walk away from.
so the value isn't in building something, it's just in the efficiency of the extraction. It's only about what you take with you.
That's it. And this kind of philosophical elevation of the hustle, it also transforms how he views the role of the pimp, which is detailed in the Pimp's craft.
He declares, I'm an artist, not a dealer.
Yes. That shifts the focus from just, simple commodity exchange, the dealer model, to this advanced intellectual and mental game.
What exactly is this artistry, according to him?
It's psychological control. It's kind of dark mentorship. The artistry is teaching women how to bleed, deceive, and mislead to secure long-term assets.
Specifically, keys and deeds, real estate.
Real estate. The exploitation is reframed as a specialized education. He even says, I turn a student to a scholar.
And the transaction he describes is so clinical, it's almost corporate. A fee for service.
Completely. He details the specific cost. $5 K in Inema, peel her 5 days is what she bought to show me everything she got. It's just an evaluation of potential asset value. This is crime intellectualized.
It is. But this highly sophisticated view, it seems to contrast really sharply with a sense of loss. He feels this intellectual rigor has been diluted by the modern players, doesn't he?
Oh, he's very nostalgic for like a pure version of the game.
Yeah.
He's frustrated. The sources say, them DVDs fuck this game up, causing everyone to change up and lose that intellectual thread.
And he just dismisses the modern players.
Completely. He says, the shit you say you play today ain't the game at all. In his view, the complexity has just been replaced by simple brute force.
That structural complaint is fascinating. Okay, we need to shift into the operational reality now, part 3. Let's detail the specific hustles and the violence. And then we have to address that massive contradiction, the moments of spiritual reflection.
Right. To ground all this philosophy, we have to look at the operations themselves, which are detailed, specific, and global.
He's not just a corner boy.
No, not at all. He mentions international supply chains. He says, China White on a flight with my French friend, which refers to high-purity heroin, and it's part of a Golden Triangle Express shipment.
So this suggests extensive high-level international logistics are part of the whole enterprise.
Absolutely. And the preparation of the product is described in this chillingly technical way.
A drug recipe.
Yeah. Mixing fentanyl with quinine and then adding 10 to 20 fingers to bleed these bricks. The process is ruthlessly aimed at maximizing profit and potency, regardless of the toxicity.
And the exploitation isn't just in the illegal market, right? The sources highlight dependency on the legal pharmaceutical system, too.
Yes, the systematic acquisition of prescription drugs. He mentions needing 8 of Quagan every week and 90 blues on the same day.
And just for anyone less familiar with that specific vernacular, Quagan is promethazine with codeine, and 90 blues are oxycodone pills.
Right. And this whole relationship with the pharmacist, it just underscores Mouthpiece's core belief. Every legal structure is just another structure waiting to be exploited.
He even says the pharmacist is lucky we be paying because we really could be stealing it.
Exactly. Every relationship is just assessed based on opportunistic leverage.
And the violence used to protect this whole enterprise is described with such high specificity. He mentions a chop with a drum full of 223s.
And for context, a chop is a modified automatic weapon, often using powerful .223 caliber rounds. They're designed for maximum lethality.
The language is all about the finality, the permanent consequences. He assures you that an AR starts squirting, it'll drench men.
The goal is closure, permanent elimination. Hollows explode in your face, leaving victims frozen in space, cold closing the case. It's the brutal reality of the efficient system he's embraced.
It is so jarring to shift from this cold, technical description of violence and profit to suddenly find these moments of deep spiritual reflection. What anchors this contradiction?
I think it suggests the philosophy has a kind of spiritual failsafe, an aspect that can't be corrupted or leveraged. Despite the amoral operations, there's this unshakable faith.
Whether it's Jesus Christ or Allah, they can't take the faith.
Exactly. And this deep faith is immediately turned against the systemic grievance, which is the root of the trauma we talked about earlier.
Right, back to the beginning.
Right. The sources accuse the establishment of theft, not of money, but of self. They argue the system stole the very person you are and tried to sell you back.
That elevates the critique way beyond just economics. It becomes a war for identity.
A war that hinges on history itself. The sources claim his story ain't history. They rewrote it specifically. It's a total rejection of the imposed narrative.
And in its place.
In its place, they reclaim their own pride and identity. The source says that while the soul is called black, it is really a complexion full of gold.
That's a spiritual claim to an inherent untouchable value, no matter what society does.
And that pride is the foundation of their ultimate defiance. The whole worldview comes together around this idea that the establishment, they despise what they can't comprehend or control.
And in response to that threat, the advice from the skies is
simple: never bend, never fold.
So what we're left with is a terrifyingly consistent philosophical system. This persona, Chase Leday, exists in this intense duality. He's the acknowledged victim of a system. He says, I hate what my environment promoted me to be, that he feels chastised, tormented.
But instead of escaping that system of exploitation, he makes an active choice to become the most efficient, systematic exploiter within it. He redefines criminal activity not as a failing, but as a form of corporate mastery.
Proudly referencing his heist-level game and prolific pimp.
So the sources give us this really coherent philosophy where trauma is leveraged into currency and morality is just. It's ruthlessly discarded for one singular goal: accumulation.
It's a tragic worldview. A person driven by systematic pain who chooses to become the very type of systematic exploiter that created their pain in the first place.
The shortcut line becomes the only path forward. And the philosophy justifies the means because, as he argues, the methods are no different from the legal elite.
Which leaves us with a final, really provocative thought, doesn't it? Something inspired directly by the source material.
It does. Mouthpiece stresses intentions over mentions. So if the goal is truly only wealth and power, and if, as the source claims, the methods of robbery, murder, extortion are structurally identical to the methods used by corporate giants like JP Morgan, does the definition of a hustle truly change based on the legality of the last name attached to the profit? Or is the only meaningful difference the scale and the directness of the violence?
Yeah, man.
Rick and Thaddeus on the beat.
Giving you rhythm. Same shit. Paying pimpin'. Check. Let's say the bitch giving you rhythm, paying attention and paying your pimpin'. Play the ism into a position where he ain't progressing, it look like he winning. Yeah, and them selfies he grinning. From all the likes and the mentions, it look like the world fucking with him. But behind all of the shine is the pain. What would you do for this fame? Who would you shoot for this chain? If you could choose someone to lose for the game, Peace 22 through the brain. Let me think it be simping, abusing the game. Since 04, no cape, no hero. First one says splash, every P, no Ben CC. Sent the 2 double zeros, AOB, fat trap, blue C note. From the trap to the indoor track, through the back door, back in the lack to the blade. Every day on the way to get paid. Stay playing, make work the bitch like a slave. Yeah, from the era of waves in the phase. Chopping on plays in Texas, the land of the brave. Pimp juice in my styro double cup. Soul crack with the vision of a double up. shine up the lag. Then I'ma head to the track. We pimpin', we different from Max. So I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. Yeah, set her down for that rack. Then I'ma head to the track. Hit the corner store, shine up the lag. Then I'ma head to the track. We pimpin', we different from Max. Yeah, so I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. Once the internet gone, you'll be holeless. Thinking to yourself, he told us. MPSC is the coldest. Them 40 pointers look like boulders. Gotta shoot my chopper from your shoulders. Sip out that coffee cup, but it ain't Folgers. Got her number, called her, and I told her I could mold her. Like life if she knows it is over. From a civilian to a soldier. Clinched in them trenches until this shit's over. As a ride or die, Bonnie and Clyde. Only type of bitch sit beside a pimp. Only type I'm with, stay skip for chips. Bitch smart and slick, always hitting licks. That's my protege, she's with the shit, I'ma make a K a day. Long range with the pimpin' like a fadeaway. No cut, all game, this the day to day. On P's, I be with this shit from May to May. Came from nothing to something, I made a way. Place a bitch for the script and then make a play. Used to whip up the yay where my mama stay. Now I'm flipping the bitch, I'm Obama pay. Set her down for that rack. Then I'ma head to the track. Hit the corner store, shine up the lag. Then I'ma head to the track. We pimpin', we different from Max. So I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. So I'ma head to the track. Yeah, set her down for that rack. Then I'ma head to the track. Hit the corner store, shine up the lag. Then I'ma head to the track. We pimpin', we